What if I told you that one of the most diabolically brilliant anime of the last decade is back, and it's arriving exactly when the anime world needed it most? We're talking about a tiny blonde girl with the soul of a cold-blooded corporate salaryman, a god with a petty grudge, and a battlefield that makes World War I look like a polite disagreement. Ladies and gentlemen, the Devil of the Rhine is finally, officially returning. Saga of Tanya the Evil Season 2 is here, and today on Anime's Update, we are going all in the trailer, the cast, the plot, the staff changes, and why this might genuinely be the most anticipated sequel of the entire summer 2026 anime season. Buckle up, because we are about to go to war. Before we get into it, if you're new here, welcome to Anime's Update, where we bring you the hottest anime news with zero fluff and maximum energy. Hit that subscribe button right now and smash the notification bell, because you do not want to miss what we've got coming. We drop anime news faster than Tanya drops enemy battalions. Now, let's go. Let's start by just letting that sink in for a second. Saga of Tanya the Evil. Season 2. After 9 years. 9 years. Think about that. Season 1 aired back in January 2017. We got a movie in 2019. Then they announced Season 2 in June 2021, and then radio silence. Nothing. Absolute dead air. For years, the fanbase was out here in the wilderness, surviving on manga chapters and light novel translations, like survivors rationing the last of their supplies. Some people genuinely gave up. Some people had memes about it. Some people convinced themselves it was never happening. And then the anime world simply said, surprise. Because on July 8, 2026, Saga of Tanya the Evil Season 2 is officially premiering, and I need you to understand just how massive that is. This isn't just a show coming back. This is a cultural event. This is the anime equivalent of a legendary general returning from exile to command one final campaign. And just like Tanya herself, it showed up on its own terms, on its own schedule, completely unbothered by how long anyone had been waiting. Now, if you're somehow new to this franchise, first of all, where have you been? And second of all, let me catch you up real quick, because understanding the premise is key to understanding why Season 2 is such a big deal. Imagine this. You're a ruthless, hyperlogical salaryman in modern Japan. You don't believe in God. You think the universe is a cold, mechanical system and sentiment is weakness. And then you die. Gets pushed onto train tracks by a disgruntled employee you fired. Brutal. But here's the twist. Right before you hit the afterlife, some divine entity calling himself being X stops you mid-fall into the void and tries to convince you to believe in him. You, being the logical corporate robot that you are, refuse. And so, as punishment or maybe as a cosmic experiment, being X reincarnates you. Not as a hero, not as a powerful warrior, but as a tiny blonde girl named Tanya de Gurchaf, born into a war-torn alternate version of early 20th century Europe, where magic is real and World War I never ended, it just got worse. And here's the genius of it. Instead of becoming a hero, Tanya's entire goal is to avoid combat. She wants a safe, cushy desk job far from the front lines. She wants to retire in peace. The problem? She's so impossibly talented at war, at strategy, at magic, at commanding troops that every time she tries to escape danger, her superiors throw her deeper into it. She gets promoted. She gets more responsibility. She gets more enemies. She's literally too good at the thing she hates doing. That is the most beautifully ironic setup in Isekai history, and it makes every single episode a deliciously complicated mess of dark humor, military strategy, and existential spite. It's like if someone took Sun Tzu's Art of War, blended it with a theology debate, added explosive aerial magic combat, and then gave the main character the personality of a frustrated middle manager who never asked for any of this. Alright, now that we've set the stage, let's talk about what we actually know about Season 2, because there's a lot to break down, and every single piece of information is exciting. Let's start with the timeline of how we even got here, because this is genuinely one of the wilder production journeys in recent anime history. Season 2 was first announced in June 2021. At the time, the community celebrated, the memes flew, and everyone expected news within a year or so. Then 2022 came and went. Then 2023. Then 2024. Then 2025, and for most of that time there was essentially nothing, no trailer, no release window, no staff announcements. It was the kind of silence that makes you check if a project was quietly cancelled. And then, on November 28th, 2025, Kadokawa dropped a teaser trailer and a key visual that broke the internet. The fandom collectively lost its mind. But even that teaser only confirmed a vague 2026 window. It wasn't until the stage event at Kadokawa's Anime Japan 2026 booth on March 28, 2026, that the full truth came out. New trailer, new key visual, new cast members, and a locked-in July 2026 broadcast date. Then just recently, Crunchyroll locked in the specific date, July 8, 2026. That's it. That's the date. Circle it. Tattoo it on your arm. Do whatever you need to do. Okay, so now let's talk about what that trailer actually showed us, because this is where things get genuinely electric. The first teaser back in November 2025 opened with what appeared to be imperial military propaganda, the kind of triumphalist. We're winning the war. Messaging that you just know is covering up something much darker underneath. And then it cuts to a Being X confrontation sequence, which, if you know the dynamic between Tanya and Being X, you know that means things are about to get theologically complicated and explosively violent in equal measure. But the visual that really got people talking? Tanya sitting at a burning piano. Not playing it in a concert hall. Not in some cozy drawing room. A burning, destroyed, wartime piano, and she's sitting there playing it like she owns the apocalypse. That image is so loaded with symbolic weight that anime fan artists had field day dissecting it for weeks. Then the March 2026 full trailer expanded everything significantly. We got active combat sequences. New character designs in full motion. The aesthetic of the series, that gritty, pseudo-European World War I atmosphere. The aerial mage combat, the tactical chaos looks sharper and more intense than ever. The orchestral score is back, composed by Shoji Matsui, and it perfectly blends that sense of urgency with the show's signature dark irony. Explosion sound design, aerial dogfights, Tanya screaming orders across a burning skyline. If you've seen the trailer and you're not hyped, I genuinely don't know what to tell you. Check your pulse. Now here's a detail that the hype articles often skip past, and I think it's one of the most interesting things about Season 2 from a production standpoint. There is a new director at the helm. Let me explain why that matters. Season 1 was directed by Yutaka Uemura, who really set the visual language and tonal identity of the series. That's a hard act to follow. Taking over for Season 2 is Takayuki Yukamoto, who has worked as an episode director on projects like Negative Positive Angler. Now, a director change mid-franchise always raises eyebrows. It's the kind of thing that can make or break a sequel's identity. But here's the reassuring part, and this is important: the rest of the core creative team is returning. Kenta Ihara, who you might know from Tsukimiki Moonlit Fantasy, is back for series composition. That means the scripting, the narrative structure, the adaptation decisions all in familiar hands. Yuji Hasego, known from Revenger, is back as both character designer and chief animation director. So the visual continuity, the way Tanya and her crew actually look on screen, is being maintained. Think of it like this. The head chef has changed, but the recipe book is the same, the sous chefs are the same, and the restaurant is the same. Will it taste exactly identical? Maybe not. But the fundamentals are locked in, and honestly, a fresh directorial perspective might give the series exactly the energy boost a 9-year gap demands. And the studio? Studio NUT is back. The same studio that handled both Season 1 and the 2019 film. And they've earned their reputation. The large-scale battle sequences in this franchise, the aerial combat in particular, are genuinely spectacular pieces of animation work. Studio NUT knows how to make magic warfare look cinematic and visceral at the same time. Having them return is the biggest single reassurance fans could have asked for. Let's talk cast, because this is another area where the news is almost nothing but good. Aoi Yuki is returning as Tanya de Gurchaf. Full stop. This is not a small thing. Aoi Yuki's performance as Tanya is genuinely one of the most technically demanding and widely celebrated voice acting achievements in modern anime. She has to voice a character who is simultaneously a small child in appearance and a cold, calculating, jaded adult male psyche on the inside. The way she toggles between Tanya's unsettling cheerfulness, her military ferocity, her private exhaustion, and her petty war with Being X, it's masterful. The fact that she's back means the emotional core of the series is fully intact. Returning alongside her is Saori Hayami as Victoria Ivanovna Serebryakov, aka Vishatanya's most loyal subordinate and basically the moral heart of the 203rd Mage Battalion. which is saying something when your boss is a reincarnated atheist salaryman waging war against God. Shinichiro Miki returns as Erich von Rirugen. Tessho Genda is back as Kurt von Ruttersdorf, and Hochu Otsuka reprises Hans von Zetor. If any of those names mean something to you, you already know why this matters. The political and military chess match between these characters is one of the richest dynamics in the entire show. But Season 2 isn't just bringing back the old guard. There are two major new additions. Tomokazu Sugita, who you probably know as Rudius in Mushoku Tensei, joins the cast as a character named Mikkel. And Yoko Hikasa, famous for her role as Tio in Arifureta, joins as Lilia. Two incredibly talented voice actors stepping into new roles in a franchise with extremely high standards. The fandom is already theorizing about who these characters are and what they mean for the direction of Season 2's story. Based on the light novel content, Mikkel and Lilia are likely connected to the escalating conflict with the Russi Federation, but we'll get to that in a moment. Now, speaking of story, what is actually going to happen in Season 2? This is where things get genuinely fascinating from a narrative standpoint, and where light novel readers have been barely containing their excitement for years. Let's break it down carefully without going full spoiler mode, because half the fun is watching it unfold. Season 1 of the anime covered roughly the first 3 volumes of Carlo Zen's light novel series. The 2019 film then bridged parts of Volume 4. So Season 2 is expected to pick up from around Volume 4 or 5, potentially covering through Volumes 6 or 7 depending on episode count and pacing decisions, and that's a stretch of story that light novel readers consistently describe as one of the richest and most escalating arcs in the entire franchise. Here's the situation Tanya is walking into. The war is expanding. The enemies are multiplying. The Empire's strategic position, while still formidable, is increasingly strained by a conflict that is spreading on multiple fronts. And at the center of the storm, as always, is the Russi Federation, which is this show's thinly veiled stand-in for Soviet Russia. The war against the Federation is not just a military conflict. It's an ideological one. It's a war of attrition and willpower, and it's the kind of fight that Tanya, with all her tactical genius, cannot simply outmaneuver her way through. Resources are stretched. Allies are unreliable. And every time Tanya proves herself indispensable on the battlefield, she gets pulled further from that desk job she's been dreaming about since reincarnation. What makes this arc so compelling for existing fans is that it forces Tanya to confront the limits of pure strategy. Being X isn't just a divine antagonist, it's the author of her circumstances, constantly engineering situations where Tanya's own brilliance becomes her cage. The harder she fights, the longer the war lasts. The more she wins, the more she's needed. It's a trap that no amount of tactical genius can dismantle, and watching Tanya realize that, watching her rationalize her way through that specific kind of despair is one of the most compelling character studies the isekai genre has ever produced. Season 2 appears poised to push that dynamic to its absolute limit. And then there's the matter of Mary Sue. Yes, that is a character's actual name. Mary Sue Sue. She is a young American soldier who is, in the most gloriously ironic possible way, a genuine true believer in being X, essentially everything Tanya despises wrapped up in one person. Their collision is one of the most anticipated moments in the entire light novel readership, and the trailer hints, very carefully, that she may be on her way. If you thought Tanya had drama before, wait until she meets someone who actually has divine favor and knows it. Now let's touch on where you can actually watch this, because it is thankfully very straightforward. Crunchyroll has confirmed they will be streaming Saga of Tanya the Evil Season 2 as it airs, and their coverage spans North America, Central America, South America, Europe, Africa, Oceania, the Middle East and CIS. That's essentially the entire English-speaking world, and then some. On top of that, Crunchyroll is even bringing Season 2 to Anime Expo 2026 with a special panel in July, which means if you're attending the expo, you potentially have a chance to experience the beginning of Season 2 in a room full of fellow fans who have been waiting 9 years for this moment. That's going to be electric. Season 1 received an English dub through Funimation, which has since been absorbed into Crunchyroll's infrastructure. So there's a very real expectation that a simuldub or eventual dub for Season 2 will come. No official announcement has been made on that front yet, but history strongly suggests it's coming. If you're a sub-only viewer, you're already set. If you prefer dub, stay tuned to official announcements. The first season is also fully available on Crunchyroll right now, And if you haven't caught up, or if it's been a while, this is the perfect time to do a rewatch. The movie is also there and it is canon, so don't skip it. It directly bridges the gap between where Season 1 ends and where Season 2 picks up. There's also a little side special involving a pasta recipe in Africa that exists and is exactly as chaotic as that description implies. That one's optional, but entertaining. Very entertaining. Let's also take a minute to appreciate what makes this show stand out from the crowd, because the summer 2026 anime slate is loaded. I mean genuinely stacked. And yet Tanya's return occupies a unique space that almost nothing else can compete with. The isekai genre has exploded in the years since Season 1 first aired. We've had hundreds of new series, dozens of which have been excellent. But Tanya the Evil was never really playing in the same sandbox as the wish-fulfillment isekai crowd. This is not a show about leveling up, getting a harem, and becoming the most powerful person in a fantasy world. This is a show about the existential horror of being competent in a system designed to use you up, about the way ideology and faith intersect with violence and survival, and about one very specific soul's petty, furious refusal to accept that a being more powerful than them has won. That's not a power fantasy. That's a dark comedy about the limits of rationalism and the terror of divine intervention. It's genuinely one of the most unique premises in the medium, and the fact that it executes that premise with such sharp political commentary, such meticulously detailed military strategy, and such explosive action sequences, that's the magic. That's why people have been waiting 9 years for this, and they would wait 9 more. The opening theme for Season 2 is also something to get excited about. The track, called Why? Red Induction, will be performed by MYTH and ROID. And if you know your anime music, you know what that means. Myth and ROID are legends in this space. They're the group behind absolute bangers in Zero, Overlord, and other dark fantasy anime. Their sound is aggressive, hypnotic, electronically sharp, and weirdly addictive. The fact that they are returning for Season 2 isn't just good news, it's a statement. The show is swinging for the fences on every level, music included. Let's zoom out for 1 second and look at the bigger picture here, because Saga of Tanya the Evil isn't just an anime. It's a franchise. The light novel series by Carlo Zen currently has 14 published volumes in Japan, with the story running dramatically ahead of where the anime will be even after Season 2. Yen Press is publishing the English editions, currently up through Volume 11. The manga adaptation is ongoing. Tanya has appeared in crossover events like Isekai Quartet, where she had to share a classroom with the likes of Ains Ulgaon and Subaru Natsuki. Watching Tanya navigate that particular situation is its own form of comedy. The point is, this franchise has legs. It has depth. It has a story that, according to everything Carlo Zen has discussed publicly, is building towards something genuinely substantial. And a successful Season 2 which, given the hype, the production pedigree, and the fanbase dedication, seems very likely opens the door to further adaptations. We could be talking about a Season 3, more films, more expansions. The Devil of the Rhine could be returning not just for a single season, but for a full run that finally does justice to all those volumes of source material. And that is an exciting thought for everyone who's been writing with this franchise since 2017. So where does that leave us? Let's pull it all together. Saga of Tanya the Evil Season 2 premieres on July 8th, 2026 on Crunchyroll. It's a summer 2026 title, which means it's dropping right now. We are in the season, people. The show is produced by Studio NUT, with Takayuki Yukamoto stepping in as the new director, while Kento Ihara and Yuji Hasego anchor the series' composition and character design respectively. The full core cast is back, led by the irreplaceable Aoi Yuki as Tanya, with powerhouse additions in Tomokazu Sugita and Yoko Hikasa joining as new characters Mikkel and Lilia. The story picks up where the 2019 film left off, diving into the light novel's richest arcs, yet the war with the Russi Federation, the limits of Tanya's tactical genius, and the escalating divine interference of being X. The opening theme is by MYTH and ROID. The production looks gorgeous. The trailer is incredible, and the wait is finally, completely, gloriously over. This is one of those rare sequel announcements where everything, the timing, the staff, the cast, the source material, the fandom energy aligns in a way that makes you feel like it's actually going to deliver. Not just deliver, but potentially exceed what can.